Good evening. It's my pleasure to talk to you today. As you can see, I'm Chief Scientific Officer of a little company, only one of us get paid, not me, Apeliotus Vision Science. I also moonlight as Associate Professor at the College of Medicine at Penn State Medical Center. So I get to live in both worlds, both the academic and the industry startup. And so it's an interesting experience because this morning I was at a diabetes meeting, and we had industry and academics involved, trying to figure out how industry and academics can work together to bridge the technology gap. And I wish we had the innovation transfer network there, because that is the kind of means. It's very difficult as a faculty member to get tenure and promotion if you get involved in startups. Everyone encourages it, but the development gap is often described as a chiasm. And you eventually have to decide, is the discovery you made going to help people sufficiently that you want to get sidetracked and take up a second full-time job? So I want to explain to you today a little bit about what Apeliotus Vision Science is, and I'll make some sarcastic remarks along the way as to things that I was completely naive to, but I think we have somewhat of a success story thus far. Apeliotus Vision Science is a medical device manufacturer. We have one product in our portfolio, which is a non-invasive device to measure or detect age-related macular degeneration, which is the leading common cause of blindness among older adults. It's a retina disease. So you can see, unlike glaucoma, what happens with age-related macular degeneration is the central portion of your vision is affected, makes things like reading, recognizing faces, or driving completely impossible. It tends to strike adults over the age of 50 years old. In fact, right now, there's estimated 30 million people affected worldwide. That 1 in 3 adults over the age of 75 have a diagnosis of age-related macular degeneration, or more commonly, they have the disease and just do not know it, which can lead to devastating consequences. Independent market analysis says that this disease is a $7 billion a year market. That includes both diagnostics as well as drug and treatment. The problem is that this disease, although not difficult to detect, often goes undetected, for several reasons. Most people get their eye care from an optometrist. Less than 35% of optometrists even do a dilated fundus exam and look in the eye to see if you have the disease. And it's hard to detect even by retina specialists. Here on the left we have a normal eye, which is relatively quiescent and has that nice orange color. Here in the center we have a dry or early AMD person, again with textbook yellow or whitish lesions. I don't know if you can see it with the lights being so high. And here at the end stage we have wet AMD with a blown out macula. This person's probably nearly blind. We might have heard in the news there's been advertisements for Lucentis by Genentech. People using Avastin off-label, Macugen can treat this late form of the disease. The problem is many people walk around for 5 years with this disease in the early stage. Vision gets blurry, decide to take a rest, get some sleep, go to the doctor 3 days later, find out they have the late form of the disease, and there's nothing you can do at that point. The current late-stage treatments lock in the disease progression where it's at when you go to the doctor and start receiving monthly injections at the cost of $2,000 per month. So obviously there's a great need to diagnose people in the early stage and develop treatments to treat this disease before it becomes blinding. So let's go back, and I had to chuckle yesterday because this is the first time I really had to give a progress. And back in 1996, I started studying this disease, and we did 6 years of basic science discovery, and we developed this test here. As you can see on the left, we did a dark adaptation test. So this is basically when you go inside the movie theater, and it takes you a moment or two to see the seats before you can go sit down. If you had age-related macular degeneration, you'd be standing there 5 or 10 minutes before you'd have any hope of negotiating that movie theater. So what we did in the laboratory, and in fact, this wasn't even about AMD at the time, this was about understanding why normal older adults had night vision problems. We decided to measure dark adaptation, how fast that recovery from day vision to night vision goes. It was completely an academic discovery thing something that only an academic in psychology could appreciate. This was a 100-year debate that we set out to solve. And so we used this nice little sun-packed flash. We put the person's eye right up against it. Unfortunately, you can't see the 50-pound weight holding the table down. And then we took a standard Humphrey field analyzer, which is commonly used for the diagnosis of glaucoma, hacked it up, reprogrammed it to be able to measure this phenomena. I won't show you the graphs. But we did 6 years of basic science research and found out, quite by accident, that patients with early AMD, the clinical hallmark of that disease is, in fact, night blindness. Terrible difficulty adjusting to darkness. So I thought, wow, maybe someone would want to use this as a diagnostic. 6 years later, so now 12 years of research, 6 years of basic science, and 4 years of commercial R&D, we end up with the Adapt DX, which is a tabletop, non-invasive device that measures the same thing, but instead of taking 2.5 hours to make a diagnostic decision, we now have a 10-minute decision, and we're working on a 5-minute test. So you learn that when the basic science is done, the R&D is just actually beginning. And I didn't have any idea at the time that it would take 6 years of additional research in order to come up with something that's commercially viable. Also, you get into intellectual property. And of course, you want to publish everything as soon as you do it. But fortunately, we did not publish everything and ended up with intellectual property with the device. So this runs, again, counterintuitive to getting credit for academic tenure and promotion. But again, from a technology transfer, I can confidently say we wouldn't have gotten any investment in transferring this out of the academic institute into the possibility of the bedside application if we did not have intellectual property. You cannot commercialize technology in the public domain because people can't make money off it. Now, we also have done 8 clinical trials and have ongoing clinical trials with this device involving over 500 patients. And it'd be very interesting to talk to people here at Lancaster General about allowing patients here to participate in such trials. Because one of the interesting things and one of the side benefits of this kind of commercialization going on in this area is we not only are commercializing a diagnostic device, but we are forming partnerships with large pharmaceuticals as well as small pharmaceutical companies to commercialize and help them understand whether or not their early AMD drugs have efficacy. So for instance, we're negotiating a phase 1 clinical trial of one of the first drugs for early AMD, and this will be Penn State, will be one of 2 sites. So the residents of central Pennsylvania will get the opportunity to participate in a very exciting, cutting-edge trial to develop a drug or prove the efficacy of a drug for this disease for which currently there is no treatment at that stage.